Fabulous. Okay, we're good to go. So, as I say, thanks very much for joining in. So, I think you're probably very aware, Simon's probably explained that we are looking, if we can, to do a case study with Vodafone. You know, we're looking for some really great customer stories, which yours definitely fits the bill for, in globally recognised brands, which again, Vodafone would be perfect for. To share internally at Snow and also externally, if possible, if you'd be happy with that. So that's really where I'd like to start, if that is a good starting point for you.
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously, from an external perspective, we just need to make sure that content is always signed off internally before we show it externally. But we've done that for the ITAM review event that I did a presentation at, and I'm at Sam's Europe in a couple of weeks doing a presentation. So it's normally, as long as we don't talk about money and specific liabilities and things, it's normally not a problem.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Yes, I saw that you're very busy at the events, and I took a look at your ITAM review YouTube video yesterday, and I loved it. I loved the quotes that you made. I think I wrote them down here. Oh yeah, I'm a trusted advisor to the organisation. I love those quotes that you made there. They were fabulous. I know where the assets are, whether that's hardware or software assets. I know how much things cost. I know who's using them, and I can help them make business decisions. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So exciting. So I wonder if we should start by you. I'm assuming that you were involved right from the beginning with Snow in making the decisions to research SAM or ITAM solutions and why you chose Snow. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can we start with you explaining what the situation was like at Vodafone and what drove you to starting that research?
Yeah, so I think Vodafone had an interesting career. So in the UK, we're talking about UK here.
Yeah.
So in the UK, prior to us making a decision about Snow, I had been in teams of 4, teams of 2, teams of 6, back to teams of 2, up to 4, back to 1. And I think no one really knew what they wanted to do with it. And we were moved around from team to team. So we were just something that somebody knew needed to be done, but really didn't pay any attention. There was no money put on it. Once the team got a little bit big, then something would happen, and then a reorg would happen, and someone would go, oh, they've got quite a few people. Let's remove some people from there.
And those were teams around software asset management, were they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So software asset management. So no, actually, licensing is what I'm going to say to you. Much more about licensing than anything else. And at that time, I was the authority. So I wasn't the manager of the team. Okay. So I was one of the members of the team that just happened to survive. the ins and outs that have gone on, I guess, in the previous years. And when we had another management decision made, I think it was about 2015, maybe it was 16. We had a change in CIO and some changes in the top, and someone came to me and said, look, we're not doing this right. We need to do this properly. What are we going to do? And also, what role do you want to play in this? Because I had done management before, and I had chosen to take a career break because I had a baby. So they all knew I could do management. I just, at the time, just didn't want to do it. So they came back and said, what should we do? Should we outsource? We need to think about tools. And what do you want to do? Do you want to be the sort of senior licensing person, or do you want the opportunity to do what you want with it? So I went, I'll do what I want with it. I'll have that. I'll have the management job. So at that point, we then discussed how the team would look and the tools that we might need, or the tools that we got today and the tools that we might need. At the time, we were using and are still using Spider, which is the Brainware product, which has now been purchased by Flexera. But at the time wasn't. So we were using Brainware on the desktops, and then we had pockets of Flexera on the server environment.
Yeah.
We had a acquired environment from Cable and Wireless that didn't have anything on at all.
Okay.
And then we had a number of other tools that our server guys were using for server administration. So we had a bit of Edge Site. There was a little bit of AVVM about,
Okay.
but nothing to show you a consolidated picture of what you had.
Okay.
So we, from a toolset perspective, we sat down and had a conversation with security and architecture and our desktop guys and myself, and we went, what do we want the tool to do today? And what do we want the tool to do tomorrow?
Okay.
So what do we need to do today, and what do we need to do tomorrow? And the biggest thing that came out of today was, today we need to know what is the all. What is the number?
Right.
What is the number of things that we are responsible for in the UK? Because no one had the number.
Okay.
So no one could tell you exactly how many servers we're responsible for the UK, how many laptops are responsible for the UK, how many desktops, are there any MacBooks, tablets, how many Citrix accounts have we built? Because a lot of you had shadow IT, you had regional IT, which is in the UK, looked after UK people, and then we had global IT, which was in global data centers.
Right.
So no one had the number. That was the number one, was what is the number? That's the first thing we need to do.
Okay.
Then it was, can we have a tool that can go on as many different environments as possible? So we don't want to be in a situation where we've got a bit of Spider and a bit of ADVM and a bit of Edge Site and a bit of this and a bit of Flexera. What can we find that will go on as much as possible? And then also, tomorrow, where are we going tomorrow? We're going to be doing a lot more with Citrix, and we're going to be going cloud.
Mm-hmm.
What can we find? Is there a vendor and a company that looks like they are following the same path that we're following?
Right.
So that we don't get into the situation that we were in at that time, bearing in mind we had Flexera at the time, where we were spending a lot of money on different tools.
Okay.
And then we started doing, I started doing, which is what people do with me, I started taking some reference calls and phoning people that I knew in the industry from various conferences that I'd been to say, what are you using? Why are you using it?
Mm-hmm.
And are you happy with your tool set?
Okay.
So we didn't do a formal RFP, which I guess we could have done, but we didn't. We basically sat and spoke to Brainware Spider about what they got because we had them. We spoke to Flexera about what they had because we had them. And then we came and spoke to yourselves because we had lots of feedback that you were the guys that we needed to talk to. So we didn't talk to Cetera, we didn't speak to Aspera and those people.
Okay.
And then from the meetings that we had, we then made the decision to go with yourselves, predominantly because Brainware were not anywhere near where we wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And Flexera at the time were not giving us confidence that they could go into the desktop space and had no plans for cloud. And their pricing model was very different from yours, in that almost every conversation cost us a professional services.
Okay.
So Snow came in. Snow did not charge us any money for coming in and talking to us about what you were doing and presenting what was doing, and we would come and visit you, and there was no even talk of a commercial deal until we were ready to talk commercially. Whereas Flexera, because we already had a relationship, wanted to talk professional services every time we wanted to have a conversation.
Right.
And there was also, they almost put a, we won't talk to you about stuff you want to do until you pay for an upgrade of what you've already got.
Oh, okay.
So there was almost like a cause on it. And so we didn't like the way they were dealing. The other thing was that I talked to other people in the industry, and at the time we actually hired somebody on the team before whose job was just looked after Flexera. So I think we only had Flexera on something like 500 of our servers, bearing in mind we've got 10,000, and we were hiring someone whose full-time job was to look after Flexera.
Okay.
And that was another thing when we talked about when we want tools which are as hands off as possible,
Right.
because we don't want to be hiring people in a software asset management team to looking after tools.
Right.
We want people doing asset management, not looking after the back end of the tool set, whereas Flexera, again, seemed very tool hungry. And having spoken to people since then, it still appears to be quite hungry when it comes to people looking after tools.
Okay.
So that's why we picked Snow. They seem to have what we wanted today and also what we wanted tomorrow.
Okay. And the cloud is a big driver for that.
Yes, so we weren't doing anything with cloud at that point,
But you knew you would.
but we knew that we would.
Okay.
And we knew we needed to be in an organisation that had that on their agenda and where they were moving forward to.
Brilliant. Okay. So when you were looking at the solutions, was it something specific that was driving you? Like, was it audits? Was it digital transformation in general? Security? Cost? What was it that was driving you?
The biggest driver was that we'd had acquired Cable and Wireless.
Okay.
And Cable and Wireless had come with 5,000 servers, 3,000 people, and no scanning, no visibility of what they were doing.
Okay.
So from a discovery perspective, we acquired an organisation where they had no standardisation either.
Right.
So everyone had PC rights. The whole company had PC rights. They obviously came with huge data center infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And from our perspective, we'd purchased Cable and Wireless for the business side of it. But then you have to be careful that it doesn't come with liability at the same time. They didn't have an asset management team, so they had taken much more of a we pay off the problems when they come in approach.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than we proactively get ourselves in proactively we know what our issues are and we're dealing with them and we're doing everything. They were in very much the opposite way, with if it comes and knocks on our door, then we'll worry about it. Otherwise, we'll do the best we can.
So basically, your proactive approach was upset by the arrival of all of this extra hardware and software with no real structure around how they were managing it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and obviously, what we were trying to do in Vodafone was to look for certification, so your ISO 27001s and those sort of things, and those certifications allow us to do business with other organisations. We bought an organisation where there was no control, and therefore now they belong to us.
Right.
You have to do that. And also from a contractual perspective, if you take your big organisations like your Microsoft and your Oracles, those sort of things, and IBMs, they had their own contracts, which is fine. But at some point, you've got to merge those two together.
Okay.
So when they came in, there was a Cable and Wireless contract with Microsoft and then a Vodafone contract with Microsoft. Now there is only one contract.
Okay.
But we have to know, in order to be able to merge those contracts, you have to know what they've got and what they're doing and what they're buying and why they're buying it. And there was no visibility of where they'd made their decisions from.
Okay. Sounds very frustrating. So am I right in saying that it was essentially about discovery when you first had the station? Okay.
It was all about discovery. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
and recognition, I guess, discovery and recognition, because we did have. So let's take all the desktops. We did have DDMI at the time was on the desktops. So we had discovered data, but I think we had something like 1 million unrecognized exe files. So it's all very well having discovery, but if you don't have recognition, then you don't know what you've got. You've just got a bunch of DLLs and exe files, and you don't know what it is. So it was the two together. It was discovery and then recognizing what it is you've discovered.
Okay. Okay. So you had all those unrecognizable files. You knew they were there, but you didn't know what they were.
Yes.
Why they were. Okay. Right. Oh wow. Okay. Must have been a bit worrying at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I say I'd been here through the teams making the changes, and I guess as far as we were concerned from the team, is that our job was to tell the C-level managers what is going on. And what we were saying is we can't see, we can only do what with the data we've got. We're doing the best we can with the information that you give us.
Yeah.
But what we did was I guess I produced a liability statement of what I thought was the full extent of the issue.
Okay.
And at that point, it got someone's attention.
Okay.
Very large number.
And that was that a pound value, or was
Yes.
that okay?
Yes, that was a very large number that said, based on what I can see and what I know and the lack of control that you've got over your desktops and your hardware and your servers and everything else, here's an estimate of what we think is the problem.
And is that around like compliance issues you thought?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. So basically,
and bear in mind at that time we were getting probably 4 or 5 audits a year.
Okay.
That's the other thing, is we were getting 4 or 5 vendor audits a year.
So, go on. Carry on. No, you carry on.
No, so one of the other triggers for this was we'd just come out of a year audit with a particular vendor.
Okay, and you were worried that if another audit came along and you had all of these unrecognised files, you had no clue as to how to answer any audit.
Yeah, I mean, the one that we'd come out for the year, we had ended up with a larger settlement because we couldn't recognise a percentage of the estate, so they extrapolated what you couldn't recognise. And I think that became a scary thought.
Okay.
To our procurement people and our IT people, is that someone could do that to us from a legal perspective. Is that we produced all the data we could see, and then after digging, because they were here for a year, after digging with and finding various information, yes, it was tough. They said, well, because we can't see all this and we can't know, and you can't provide us a yes or no, we're going to assume that because of the stuff we can see, it's on 30% of your environment. We're also going to assume it's on 30% of that as well.
Wow. Okay.
And legally, it stood up. And that was one of the other triggers, that they just went, well, hang on a minute, this is a smaller vendor. What happens if we get a really big one in, and then they do an extrapolation exercise? So
they were basically saying that you had 70% more than you could prove, or they could prove. Is that what they were saying?
Yeah, and what they were saying is that, so if we give you an example, so let's say they could see 1,000 things, and they could see that we had it on 300 of those things.
Okay.
They were saying that you've got another 1,000 things over here that we can't get any data on, so we're going to assume it's on 300 of them as well.
Okay.
So they did an extrapolation thing.
Wow.
To say,
okay.
Yes, because you can't prove it isn't, and you can't prove it is or it isn't.
Okay.
Based on the fact we can see it's on 30% of everything you can see, we're going to assume it's on 30% of everything we can't.
Wow. Okay.
And nobody could. We couldn't prove it wasn't.
No, quite. Okay, so you provided your liability report, and I'm assuming that was quickly accepted, and you moved on to change the situation, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Okay, so when was that? Did you say 2016?
2016.
Okay. And when was your snow installation? Was that 2016?
That was 2016, yeah.
Okay, so what happened after
2016, 2017, one of the two.
I thought I'd written down 2016 somewhere here. I think that's 2016, yeah. So around that sort of time.
Around that sort of time, yes.
So you moved pretty rapidly after discovering and writing that liability report?
Yes, because we obviously use the scenario that if you invest this, we will then get your return on investment of this within 12 months. So that's how we made a statement that we would, if we invested this amount on snow within a year, and a team, we built a team at the same time, so we put people in as well.
Yeah.
Two things happened at once. If we invest this amount on the team within a year, we will show a return on investment, and we put a guess in, and it ended up being 5 times what we'd spent.
Wow. So was your original estimate of ROI anywhere near that 5 times?
No, it was something like double.
Okay.
No.
So you made the business case with double, and you actually ended up with 5 times.
Yeah.
That's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think we found more we found more rubbish than we were expecting to find. Because we'd done the ROI based on the vendors that we knew we had, not on the vendors we didn't know we have. Because
of course, yeah.
Because you do it on the ones that you know, so you immediately go, well, I think we've got a bit of a Microsoft issue, and I think we've got a bit of an IBM issue, and I think we might. But then all of a sudden, when you do your discovered data, you suddenly realise that you've got things that you didn't know you ever had.
Okay. And was that
Or
around,
you've got-
because you said you had a problem around shadow IT, was
Yep.
that one of the drivers then with all of that unrecognised software?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't know if someone from HR, marketing, or what had gone and bought themselves a product, because if they're buying it themselves, installing it themselves, running it themselves, and every year annually paying for it,
right,
it wasn't coming through us at all.
Okay. So have you got any clue of the comparison between what the number of vendors you thought you had versus the number of vendors you found out you had once you'd implemented?
No, I think we had it somewhere.
Oh, okay. Was
But
it double or more than double?
I would say it was probably double what we thought we had.
Okay. I'm just curious. Right. So then what happened?
I think the other thing we discovered from the back of it is that we had an awful lot of things that do the same thing.
Okay.
So that's sort of one of the things that came off the back of it, is that I think we found we had 11 terminal emulators.
Okay.
So and ones with contracts behind them.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was almost like, well, I fancy using that one, so I'll go and buy that one for my.
Yeah. I like this. Yeah, I like this one best because I used to
like this
my old job. Yeah.
Yes. And then I think we as IT knew something like 3.
Okay.
So there was another sort of 7 or 8 that came out of the woodwork as part of this exercise. So
wow.
they're sort of the other things that we've done over the last couple of years, is we have consolidated things that do the same thing.
Okay.
So that we start to simplify the estate.
Okay, so consolidated and avoiding duplication, basically.
Yeah, so that's one of
on personal preferences.
Yeah, so making more of a company standardization.
Okay,
decision
that's good.
on these are the products that we're going to use in the organization, and then then putting like an exceptions-based process in that says, if you want something that's different, we need to understand why you need it different. What is it doing that the ones that we've got don't do, and can we go back to the vendors of the one that we have got and get them? Is it coming in a future release of what they're doing? So that's the sort of thing that's come out of it. I think at the time there were so it's 10:30 fire alarm test.
We had that on Tuesday.
So I think before we put Snow in, we had what we call a standardized list of A to Z of products. And we thought we knew what we had. I think then when Snow went in, we suddenly went, oh, lots of people are using another thing for this. So how many packages do you have? How many recording packages do you have? How many? I think we had something like you had Acrobat Pro, but then we had something like 7 different free versions of PDF reader writers.
Right.
So lots and lots of open source stuff. Some that was where we were happy with, some that had basically been downloaded from like university sites and things.
Okay.
So there was an awful lot of risk that also came out of it. So compliance risk was one of the things that went in the original business case, but what came out of it longer term was security got involved, because then we could discover applications with security risk rather than license risk.
Right. So that's a big thing these days too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that visible early on, or has that come out over the last couple? 2.5, 3 years now, isn't it? So
yeah, I think that's probably come more over the last 18 months.
That's an added bonus.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking at analytics, is because security have got more involved
Right.
in snow, and they now work with us on blacklists.
Okay.
And we've now got processes that are backed by security. So breach of activity processes. If you breach your PC rights and put something on your machine and then Snow picks it up, security take on the action of what to do with that action and that individual.
Okay.
That's not
Wow.
us. That's us. We basically say we've found a breach, and then they do whatever they do with it and take whatever action they choose to do. Now that wouldn't have happened 3 years ago.
Because you didn't know because you didn't know the software was being downloaded. Okay.
No, and security had their own, I guess, monitoring systems, but they were monitoring really for things like patch levels,
Right.
not for people installing Bitcoin miner and Tor and
So,
gaming software. That's the sort of thing that suddenly came out of
yeah.
when you do discovery and recognition.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff that comes out that you suddenly go, oh my god, we've got a bunch of this.
Yeah.
And then you then have to go, well, why have we got this? So some of it is an immediate get rid of, and some of it was understanding how people work. So there were products that were installed on very large numbers of people's machines that security would go, no, we don't like it. But then they'd go, oh, but it's on 600 people's machines, so it can't. There must be maybe a reason. So then we have to go into, so they then investigate why. So do we need a formal, an approved version of whatever that is they're using? Or do we need to start putting more processes in and policies that says, no, we're not, as an organisation, we're not using this type of stuff.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So it led to spend, I guess, as well. So we saved money, but it was also led to spend. So it's led to we package software up for a centralised deployment here. So we had to package more software for centralised deployment where people have been manually installing it. So we had spend, and we also spent more money on some products to replace some of the freeware or risky stuff that we had. So we've had more savings than we had spend, but I think that was the other thing that came out of it, is that it wasn't all about savings, it was about spend as well to eliminate risk. Okay,
that's a good point. Spend to eliminate risk. So I'm just curious, do you said about security, do you provide the reports to security which allows them to then go and police, for want of a better word, the illegal software that you might have installed? Do you provide those reports, or do they have their own access to Snow?
So the fraud and investigations in department have their own access to Snow.
Okay.
The other security departments take feeds from us, so we don't allow everyone. So there are certain levels of security that have direct access, and there's other levels of security where we do reporting.
Okay, and that's through your team, Julia?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, it's a really interesting story, isn't it? Especially all the stuff you've subsequently uncovered.
Yeah, and I think what's come off the back of it as well is that the team now is not a licensing team. So 4 years ago, the team was licensing. The team is now IT asset management. So the team now, I have a function within the team that looks after PC rights. I have a function of the team that looks after software approvals. So we run a approval process and an approved A to Z, and we also do like a self-service demand shop.
Right.
And then we have the licensing, which we've always done, and we also do client hardware asset management as well now. So we now govern where laptops are, and we get involved with Active Directory pruning and laptop recovery, and that has led to a link between our team and finance now. So not only have we built a team linked with security, we have built a team linked with finance, so that we now do what they call monthly impairment, which is how much is the book value worth of your estate. And we also work on things like how much money would we need to spend to make sure that we stay within a 4-year refresh cycle of our assets.
Okay.
And what is the value of our lost and stolen assets. We've managed to turn our disposals excuse me, from where we used to pay people to dispose our assets, we now make money on the disposal of our assets.
Wow, okay. So that was the link to finance. You just mentioned a link to Skitty, did you say?
Sorry.
Oh, you're right.
I've got a cough.
Oh,
Sorry, what was your question?
you said that was your link to finance, and then you said something about a link to Skitty, did you say?
No, security, sorry. So we've got the links with security now about the blacklists and what we do with them. We've got
Okay.
a link with finance now because we now link so
Okay, got it.
this liability statement that we made back in 2015 or whatever it was, we
Yeah.
now track that for finance.
Okay.
It's much more of a formal process, and it's much more of a tracked process. Obviously, it's far less money than it used to be. And then we obviously work with finance on assets, and at the moment we're doing some stuff with monitors. So
Right.
are people buying the right kit? Are they buying it for the standard bill? Are people wasting our money on kit that they shouldn't be buying? Are we optimizing what we're doing? And then obviously from a disposals perspective, we found out that from a disposals we would dispose like twice a year, so we stockpile stuff. And
Okay.
also our teams used to just throw the laptops in a pile.
Right.
So by the time the disposal company came in, it's basically a bunch of junk. What we now do is we now do it almost monthly, and
Right.
the kit goes in the best quality it can be. So it's not about throwing it. We
Right.
now send the kit, we make sure that we handle the kit even in a good fashion, and then you get money back.
Okay.
So
That's
that's
good.
all controlled. So it's all governed within my team. So because it all then affects the
Mhm.
amount of money you can save and you can optimize and what you can do.
Right.
Whereas if you
Okay.
take it in 2015, all we did was licensing. That's all we did.
Okay. Right. So you've got a much. Okay. So I'm interested in one of the things I know that you talk about is how you've built your team,
Yeah.
and, and obviously very proud of how you've built that team and how their roles have changed within that team, and that it's much more uh, it's completely different functionally as you've just explained. So how do you think Snow played? What was the biggest part Snow played in that you building and you evolving your teams?
Um, I think the assumption had been made before we got a tool set that worked for us, is
Hmm.
that you had to have a team of experts, whatever word,
Right.
experts, specialists, evangelists, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that was very clear when the last reorg happened and I ended up on my own was that one of the reasons it didn't work is because no one wanted to do what I would call business as usual work.
Okay.
Everybody wanted to do the fancy license stuff. Everyone,
Okay.
everyone wants to get the contract, find the money, and go, and I've saved X many million quid. That's what everybody wanted to do, who we'd hired in the past. And I think for me, when I built the team and we had a decent tool set, it was clear that there are lots of activities that we need people who are smart and business analytical and understand Vodafone and are prepared to be a bit more detective work than people with a label.
Okay.
So the team today is not made up of all licensing experts.
Right.
It's made up of people who have come from an ITIL background. So I've got one on the team who problem management. I've got one on the team whose job used to be in logistics. So he used to count the whereabouts of beer kegs for Heineken.
Okay.
So where are they? Which lorries are they going on? What are they doing? And that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I've got people who have come from a build perspective. So they've come from an engineer.
Right.
So that, for
Great.
me, made up a better team because the tool was now doing some of the work for you.
Right. So you could
And also,
divert.
and we need processes. We need processes behind it. It's all very well you say, well, I'm going to do the licensing for the organisation, but how are you going to get the information in, and how are you going to control, and how are you going to govern?
Right.
And so partly the tool allowed us to say, there's no point me hiring 8 people that all do the same thing.
Right. Okay.
And all paid the same salary and all have a fancy title that says they've been licensing experts for 5 years. Because when you say to them, right, we need to say about PC rights, they look at you and go, what?
Hmm.
Or you need to
Okay.
go, we need to govern PCs, and they go, why? I don't want anything to do with laptops. Don't ask me about laptops. I want to do. So it was very clear that now we've got a tool set that's working with us. You want a mishmash of people that do different things,
Mm-hmm.
and I am very proud of the team. We've had to make some changes along the way, but
Mm-hmm.
it's now very clear that it's quite often about the attitude and the aptitude of the people, and not
Right.
necessarily the fancy title that they've got,
Right. Okay.
and
So,
how the team work together. So the people who are the licensing experts, and don't get me wrong, I still got some,
yeah.
they can learn from the people that go, yes, but it's really important that you understand how a PC is built, and it's really important that you understand that. So I think it's been making people much more well-rounded.
Okay.
And one of the things we've talked about on ITAM events, and I know I'm not the only one that talks about it, is that it's changing in that the dinosaur people who only want to do that one thing will find themselves out of the market. They'll find themselves out of jobs at some point,
Right.
because those jobs will still exist, but they'll probably only exist in the likes of Livingston, the
Okay.
paid for companies, because internally we can't sustain. You can't sustain people who don't want to learn other things and do other things. They don't get into cloud and they don't want to understand Citrix.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Understand.
there'll always be a requirement for a company like Livingston, where you go and say, well, can I pay you to do this for me?
Right.
And they will always need maybe those type of people. But inside an organization like ours, where you're trying to do most of it yourself,
Yes.
you need much more diverse people.
I understand.
And the tool set helps you, because and the ease of the tool set, because Snow is very drag and drop.
Right.
You don't have to have highly qualified Snow people either.
Right.
You need to have people that get how to build a table and how to analyze the data and understand what's going on.
Yes. It's more about using the information than the technicalities of the product.
Yeah.
Right.
And knowing how to read the information, and also be able to see what does that mean, but not just what does that mean from a compliance view. It's also, what does that mean from a numbers view? What does that mean from a spend view? What does that mean from a
business
view?
Yeah.
And what does it mean from a business view? Oh, we've got 4 things that do the same thing. Now, licensing people won't care about 4 things that do the same thing, because
Right.
what licensing people care about is, are all 4 of them licensed correctly?
Right.
Not, should we have 4 in the first place?
Exactly. What they're not bothered about the business, the impact on the business of having 4 tools that you're paying 4 contracts for, 4 sets of maintenance.
Yes. And that's how our team has completely changed. The approach is very different now.
Wow. And Snow's facilitated that, because, as you say, that you don't need to have the technical expertise around that. You need to understand what the visibility and the information you're getting now, how that impacts the business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Simon told me about your Global Centre of Excellence, which I'm guessing is born out of the success that you've had in the UK. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So we're very early days. So we've had lots of success in the UK, and we've been asked to put a proposal together to replicate that across 10 markets. So to create a global centre of excellence where we can centralise some of the services, standardise some of the processes, and work together across 10 markets. So we are still working through, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean one team? Does it mean multiple teams in multiple countries? Does it mean just the standardization of processes? What does it mean about tool sets? Lots of things. We've obviously got different cultural differences in different markets, so we're working that through. But the plan, obviously, longer term, is to everybody's doing the same thing. And for the same reason. We understand the risk profiles in every market, and then we look at what we've done in the UK, which is, if you've got 11 terminal emulators, why do you need that? Can we start to make some global contract decisions? So if you're all using this and we're all using that, or you're using the same products, why you've got a separate contract than we? Can we put them together and make some synergies on contracts? So there's all sorts of bits and pieces. Security are interested in, obviously, standardizing processes across the markets. So tool sets is one part of it.
Exciting stuff.
Process is the biggest part. I guess process is the biggest part,
right?
Because it's getting everybody processing to work the same. But from the biggest thing, obviously, we've said to the markets is, it's all very well you follow our processes, but our processes rely on decent, discovered and recognised data. So
Right.
whilst you could follow all our processes, if you can't see what's there, then you can't ever make the changes and the cost savings and the optimizations that we've done, because you can't see it, because you've got basically a pool of undiscovered data.
Wow. Okay. How exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at my list of things I want to discuss. So you talked right at the beginning about the fact that you knew that you were going to move towards cloud-based solutions. How far have you got with that?
I don't know what the percentage is. They are moving stuff to cloud, but I can't tell you what the percentage is. We don't currently have Snow in the cloud yet.
Right.
So there are some technical difficulties and hurdles that we're overcoming, but most of the technical difficulties and overcoming we've had with our deployment are internal issues, not Snow. So I was taking a reference call yesterday and we were talking about deployment, and I said, bear in mind that the biggest problem is your own internal infrastructure, not how fast you guys can move.
Okay.
Because you guys can move pretty fast. Right. But if you're doing an internal implementation like we are, then it is your own internal rules, processes, change management systems, approval processes, firewalls, all of that, all internal to your organisation.
Yeah, you have to take it all into consideration.
Yeah. Okay. So it is on we've got a budget this year to go into the cloud. We also, we had to upgrade. So we installed Snow that was the non-upgradable down the wire. So we've had to upgrade. So we've got some of that to finish off this year.
Okay.
So we are revisiting a lot of our agents this year to replace them. And we still have some server infrastructure that we never quite got to when we rolled out. So we've never fully finished our Snow implementation. However, we do know, and I said to you at the beginning, we didn't know what the number was. We do know what the number is today.
Okay.
we might not have got to the number, but we know what the number is.
So when you say the number, are you talking about the number of devices and applications and?
No, endpoints.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things when you get a vendor come in, they'll immediately go, how many endpoints are you responsible for?
Okay.
And no one knew.
Can you share what the number is?
So I think we are going up to around about 30,000.
Okay. Okay. And what did you think it was when you didn't know what it was, or did you just not have a clue?
We didn't have a clue. So I think we originally, Cooled would know, we originally bought a certain number of licenses, and then when we upgraded, we went to 35.
Okay.
We went to 35, and we've been sitting at 35 for a while, and now we're talking about possibly giving 5,000 of our licenses to Germany, so Germany can start their Snow journey, because we now know what our number is.
Right.
So I think we bought something like 20,000 to start with, and then we went to 35, and now we kind of know where we're going now. Bearing in mind, at one point we had something like 30,000 desktop clients, and we've now got our desktop clients now down to, I think it's 22,000 endpoints now.
Okay, so
by the work we've done on harbor asset management. So there's multiple strings to what we've been doing,
right,
to be able to govern and control our environment.
Okay, and I'm guessing Snow's not involved in the hardware.
No, that's the one thing, you see. We keep pushing.
Like to see.
Yeah, there's a couple of key changes that we'd really like. So Snow doesn't do stock, which is key, and then end of life from a we reporting perspective, it needs some tweaks at the end. So the end of life stuff's not so difficult, but it's the beginning end. So we've obviously put all these things into the product team, and Per came over from Sweden and spent some time with us to look at what.
Okay, brilliant. What about reharvesting? Do you do anything around that?
Yeah, so we do that now on a monthly basis. So we have products now that we do that on a monthly basis, and because we have a self-service solution, so it's not using a Snow product, but we have a self-service solution that we run a pool. It's not the greatest thing because it's still using a spider backend, so we've got a mishmash solution. We now run a pool, so that's helped us optimize certain licenses. So things like Project and Visio, we now know how many we buy as a pool, and then because we harvest monthly, we make sure that those go out and other people can take them in, which should mean we never buy any more.
Okay, but you don't use Snow for that?
No.
Right.
No, we use it for obviously a recognition of data.
Yeah.
But we don't use it for the self-service piece.
Okay. I'm just seeing if I've got anything else on my. I think we've probably covered all of my points. I've got a few quirky questions we could finish up on. If you've shared us, do you think you've got anything else to share?
No, I think so. You can always ask me if you suddenly think of something.
Oh yes, I know where to find you now. So my quirky questions are, now that you've been using Snow for a while, actually, it's all. I think we've probably answered some of this. I was going to say, did you find anything surprising? Have you uncovered any additional unexpected use cases or functionality, for example? But I think actually you've mentioned quite a lot while we've been chatting, but maybe just a little focus on that. Has there anything that's really pleasantly surprised you since that you weren't expecting?
Pleasantly surprised us. No, I mean, I think it's been very easy to use, which is, I guess, it's been pleasing because that's what you guys said.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not what everybody says is what in reality is happening, is it?
Right.
So I think that's what's really good. I think from a surprising piece is when we ran Discovery, we were very surprised at what we found.
Okay.
And what had, bearing in mind we were supposedly a lockdown-ish environment, what had got through.
Right.
So you kind of don't expect some of the stuff that you find, so games and just unauthorized stuff.
Right.
It was some of that you think, well, we're running a lockdown Windows 10, Windows 7 environment.
Mm-hmm.
How did all that get there? But I guess some of it had been there for years, and then obviously you've got things like laptops have been handed from one people to another. So other things like processes had to change. As we supposedly machines were cleaned between given one person to another.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases it wasn't.
Oh,
so,
right. Okay.
So I think a lot of that came out of it, not just what we actually saw. It was, well, what behaviours and habits are leading to that scenario. So you'd phone someone up and go, you've got this on the machine, and they'd go, well, I've never put that machine, and I've never had admin rights. And then you find out that person inherited that machine because they've only been here 3 months, and they inherited it from someone left, and the clean down process between the two people had not taken place.
Right.
So it was a lot of that. So that came out as a surprise, and I guess that's if we were a licensing team, we wouldn't care.
Right.
I guess that's why, because the team is so different, the team have picked up behaviours and other IT processes changes that need to have to happen in order to make this teamwork and the whole thing work. We've had to go and affect how other people work. So change management. We've discovered that you have change management for big applications. So, a large application, business objects, is being upgraded at the weekend.
Yeah.
There's all change. But what we didn't realise is people were changing little things at the same time as the big thing, but not necessarily recording the little thing.
Okay.
So it's those sort of things that have come out because you can see what's going on.
Right. So,
and they're nothing to do with us. They're nothing to do with us, but they've all made business change and business process change.
Right.
Which is why I guess that phrase "trusted advisor," because people trust what we say, and they trust the data, and they trust the people saying, "I've analysed the data, and this is what it's telling me."
Right. And as you say, it's not necessarily around licensing. There's lots.
No. It's about behaviours. Yeah, we've discovered laptops are being swapped from one person to another, and they're moving their stuff, and therefore you could potentially go after somebody for a breach or a disciplinary offence, and it's not them.
Right. That's quite serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that data has helped us discover all of that as well.
Right.
Nothing to do with necessarily Sam.
No, exactly. But that's brilliant that you've been able to grow and evolve your team to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you're aware that the best case studies that we could write would involve things like cost savings, cost avoidance, efficiencies, risk mitigation, all of that. Now, you said right at the very beginning that you might not be able to get anything through with numbers in.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's anything.
We might be able to use percentages.
Yeah.
So percentages of total spend and that kind of stuff. So that's, I think, if we're going to talk about numbers, we'll have to talk about percentage of software spend that we've reduced and
Okay.
you reduce, but we won't be able to talk about numbers.
Okay. Do you have any ideas those off the top of your head, Julia, or would you need to do some research on that?
So we have taken off, I think it's 10% of the annual software budget. We are down. I think we've reduced 10% off the annual software budget.
Okay, that's a good number. Okay.
So things like what things I can talk to probably if we do some research, I think we need to think about what we need. So we used to have something like 1,400 different approved applications, and then when we put Snow in, we came up with something like 33,000 different applications, and we're now down to something like 600.
Okay, so you thought you had 1,400. So you had 1,400 approved. You discovered that you'd got like more than 3,000,
and now we've got 600 because we've standardized and optimized.
And that's because of like your 11 emulators and things like that.
Yes, and we're now because we work with the business much more. So we do this thing called the approval board, which means, and we work with other parts of the business. So we say, look, we've already got a product that does that. Let's not buy another product that does that.
Right, okay. Unless someone raises one of these exceptions that you talked about earlier. Okay, well, brilliant. Well, those are good numbers in themselves, I think. Anything else you can think of off the top of your head? What about the vulnerabilities? Have you got any sort of numbers around that? With
things like PC rights, everybody had them.
Right.
And now I think it's something. Trying to think how many we've got. So we've got 600 from 1,600 people, whatever that is.
So you've gone from 1,600 people who had PC rights down to about 600.
Yeah, nearly. Well, not everybody. I would say probably half the organisation. I'd say about 8,000 people had some sort of additional right. Now down to about 600.
Okay, so they had rights that they really shouldn't have had.
Yes, so not all full PC right, but rights they shouldn't have. Yes.
Now
we've got a controlled process, and most of our processes are signed off by ISO 27001, if that helps.
ISO
27001, which is a security ISO.
Okay, that's the security.
Yeah, and I can give you the clauses if you need the clauses if you understand what we're signed off by.
Okay, lovely. So efficiencies, I know the whole conversation has been around efficiencies and evolving your team. I'm just wondering if I'm going to go back through and pick out maybe some efficiencies, or off the top of your head, can you think of anything like around true ups and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got contractual efficiencies. We've found where if you've got more than one, so where especially with Shadow IT, people have created their own contract of something we've already got. So let's say people in Shadow IT have put an IBM contract in, yet we've got a master contract. So we've linked contracts together to make more master contracts. We've moved to centralized control of some of these licenses now. So we, through sort of things like reharvesting, we've been able to build license pools.
Right.
So rather than HR going, well, we have 50 and there are 50, but they're only using 40 at one time, we now own the pool.
Okay.
So that people come to us and then we take it off them when they're not using it, and then if they need it back, then they have to reapply. And obviously working within license compliance rules and all that kind of stuff. So we do all that kind of stuff. And
compliance, the audits. We talked right at the very beginning about that big concern around the audit that took a year, and that really large settlement with the 30%.
No, we're much more audit ready now.
Those don't happen anymore. No.
I mean, we do get them what everyone else would. We don't get them in the numbers we used to get them, and we're much more audit ready now. So we generally know what we've got issues with, although you don't really want to say that, but we do.
Okay, so you get a lower number of audits all round because they know that you're better prepared for
Yes.
them. So what's the point in going back if we know that they know their numbers, I guess?
Yeah, or we get more of the general can you send us your numbers thing rather than a formal audit. So we get a few of them
Right.
that annually say when their contract comes in, can we just confirm your numbers? And then you confirm the numbers, and then you do the true up, true down based on that. Whereas before, everyone would go, "Oh, what are the numbers?" And they go, "Just put the same number we did last year." That's what would happen. Just pay, oh, we buy 4,000, and then someone else would go, "But do we need 4,000?" I don't know. Just put 4,000 in, and it then becomes suspicious, doesn't it? When just don't know. Whereas now we're much more like, well, actually, we know it's 3,850, but let's round it up to. So we'll have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah.
Or this year we're intended to go down. Do we cut it half year or whatever? So they can feel we know what we're talking about.
Okay, brilliant. I'm conscious I've taken your whole hour now.
That's all right.
But that was so interesting. What a lovely way to spend my Friday morning. It's been lovely.
Oh, but yeah, if you need any more questions, let me know.
Okay.
If you need any more numbers, chat to me, and then we can talk about what we can say and what we can't say.
Okay. So my plan is now to go away and re-listen to this several times and write up my notes from how I've understood our conversation. And then I'll run that back through you to make sure that I haven't misunderstood anything or missed any finer details, actually, would be more important. And then we'll talk about, I'll include those sort of numbers that we just talked about, and we'll see if we can confirm those. And then we'll take it from there. But this is really exciting.
Okay, and if you want to meet or anything, let me know. I can come out to Snow, or you can come here if you want to see us.
You're Basingstoke, aren't you?
No,
Newbury.
Newbury.
Oh, Newbury. Okay, equally doable. Yeah, I actually live in Crowthorne, so Newbury's really easy for me. So
if you want to come and see us and look through some of the stuff we're doing, you're more than welcome.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you very much. And at some point, we're going to talk about snowstorm speaking too, aren't we? But we don't have dates for that yet. So
okay,
brilliant. Okay,
no problem.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Julia.
You're welcome.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.